This is TWiT.
I like this, Jeff. You have written an editorial in NewJersey.com.
NJ.com, yes.
NewJersey.com?
NJ.com. Don't go all Brooklyn on me, Paris.
I have websites over there. I'm so proud of you.
Everything's legal in Jersey.
Even Jeff blogging?
I started it.
You started NJ.com?
Well, no, it's when I worked.
You're Mr. NewJersey.com? Wow.
Brooklyn,
the J in
Brooklyn
NJ
snobs,
stands for
they're the worst.
Jeff.
Some people call him the boss, in fact. Mr. New Jersey.
Yo.
So, I like your idea. Tell us what your idea
So
is.
Bell Labs in Murray Hill, with the famous Bell Labs where so much occurred, is closing. The Bell Labs, now owned by Nokia or whatever was left of it, is moving to a new facility in New Brunswick by Rutgers, whole modern, da-da-da-da. So the old Bell Labs, which is this phenomenal building in Murray Hill and phenomenal grounds, is going to be empty. And I'm proposing that it be turned into a museum and school of the internet.
Brilliant.
You think about it, why there? The internet wouldn't be possible without so much that was forged at Bell Labs. Transistor, laser, information theory, Unix, communication satellites, fiber optics, advances in chip design, cellular phones, compression, microphones, talkies, the first digital art, and artificial intelligence. We wouldn't have an internet with so much of what was done at Bell Labs.
Unix, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And the C programming language both came out of Bell Labs.
Yeah. So there's a computer history museum in Silicon Valley. There's a television museum in the Paley Center in New York and the Museum of the Moving Image in New York. Glenn and I well know that Massachusetts, I give a plug to him in this, Glenn, has a museum of printing. Online, there are, amusing artifacts online, but I think it's important that we have a place to recognize the development of the internet, to talk about it, to think about it. You all know that I want to start an educational program in internet studies, bringing the humanities and social sciences into this. I think it's a place to do it. So this was my little jump on it idea. I want to end with one thing on this is that...
Does Nokia still own it, by the way? Is it?
Yeah, I believe so.
It's not AT&T anymore. Nokia.
Not AT&T anymore, no. Yeah. No, not long since. So David Eisenberg, I think you know David Eisenberg.
Of the Clue Train.
A 12-year veteran of Bell Labs wrote the infamous memo pushing the value of the stupid network. Oh, no,
that. That's a different David.
You think it's David
David Weinberger. This is David Eisenberg.
Yes.
So he, in his own website, says that the memo was received with acclaim everywhere in the global telecommunications community, with one exception, at AT&T itself. So Eisenberg left AT&T in 1998. So I think it'd be wonderful kind of justice to make Bell Labs the place for the internet. So I just put it up.
I love this.
We'll see if there's any reaction.
I love this.
Yeah, great idea.
It's also it's an hour drive from where I am, so then I can visit the Internet Museum regularly.
Field trip.
I also think
I went there once. When we started NJ.com, we did start NJ.com.
It was the Star Ledger, right? It's the
Star Ledger, who I used to work with when I worked on that. So we went to visit Bell Labs. And I think Nokia owned it then before it went to Lucent, or Lucent owned it. I don't know. It's been a child shoved around from house to house. But it's drab, as I remember, industrial green walls. But you walk by the labs, and you see the benches and the blackboards, and you think, what genius was in there? What happened in these places? It's haunted by genius. And we can't let it become condos or warehouses.
I think it's also good to be a place where you could go and see the internet, right? And I'm sort of being funny, but back in the 90s when I had an early internet company, I would get calls from local media all the time because they needed kind of B-roll and they wanted to shoot. They'd say, can we come and look at the internet? I'm like, well... Like Glenn has it. Glenn has the internet. Sure, it's in this room. It's some Sun Systems. And they would come in and we would talk about the internet, or get like national news and be like, this guy has the internet. And it felt a little like, well, people are looking for a physical thing to put on it. Yes. And now is a phone the internet? So I think there's actually something nice about instantiating the notion of the internet as a place, as a thing you could go and look at what made it in a way that there's no, as you said, there's no technology museum that is specifically devoted to what the internet was, what it became, what it is now, what it's going to become. I think it's great.
Right. And do an oral history with Sir Tim Berners-Lee and with Vince Cerf and the folks who were there at the beginning. And I think it's something we've got to remember. I plug my books at every opportunity, as the poor listeners of this show know. I did it in my testimony. I'm very proud of myself. I got a book plugs in my testimony. And in this op-ed,
yes, we noted that, by the way. You also, you didn't mention it by name, but you got a plug in for this show too.
Well, actually I did, because that was my intro.
Yeah.
So the name of the show was in the intro.
Did they mention This Week in Google?
Yes, they did.
And your AI Inside show.
And AI Inside.
Which, by the way, continues on.
Which, by the way, while we're on that, just real quickly, tomorrow, Jason is going to drop episode 0 of AI Inside at aiinside.story with his Patreon up to support it. And then next week, we'll have our first real show.
Great.
So it's the show, basically, you were workshopping in the club.
Exactly.
You're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Glad to hear it. That's really
so. Anyway, it took 500 years to decide to study the book. We can't wait that long for the internet. We need to study it now.
And you can have an animatronic Al Gore who can guide you through the museum.
God,
and explain.
It's mine. It's all mine.
And explain repeatedly. I didn't say what they said I said, but anyway, I did. I did it.
I was instrumental in the internet growing. I did not build the internet.
That's right. It's just in a loop, and it follows you around. You're like, okay, Al, I get it.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte. Hope you enjoyed this little snippet from our show This Week in Google. For the full show, you can either go to our website, twit.tv/twig, or find Twig in your favorite podcast client. And, of course, there's links right below, somewhere down there, for more information.